then I was like, wait, stop. Hold on.
Was that to me or
okay,
for
go.
the story?
All right, I think I'm ready now.
Okay. Well, we're already in, so take it away. Takey away.
Well, I was saying I was born ready, and then I said, stop. Whoa, wait, stop. Okay, let's go now. And then they cut the umbilical cord, and then we were off to the races.
That's good.
And it's been worse and worse every day since. Go ahead, Dane.
David, I would like to be the first to extend a hearty thanks, a hearty welcome to you to our sane space over on TikTok.
Our sane space?
Yeah, that's what I'm calling it over there.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
Yeah, because you should now, because you're in the crew now.
I'm in the crew. Well, here I was, 72 episodes in, thinking I was actually part of the crew. But then you find something new every day, let me tell you.
That's right.
Well, I'd like to graciously accept your congratulatory punditry or misogyny. What? You did kind of force me into it.
It's an igeny.
It's one of them.
One of those bad.
I'm gonna find or an archy or something like that. It's definitely one of those two. I'm gonna figure it out during this particular
get
episode.
Our notes right.
Yeah,
well,
please.
Listen, David, we're almost 8,000 strong over there, and I got to tell you, some smart folks that follow the @Weapons of Meme Destruction TikTok. And if you're a listener who doesn't, you should, because now you're gonna get David on it. You see a lot of my ugly mug. It's too much. We need some David in there to break it up.
I'm not a good chart guy.
But now he's in the crew.
I'm not a chart guy. I'm not like a facts and figures guy. I'm more of a here's my life. And let me try to show you some craziness.
Yeah, which you should.
Ugh.
Anyway,
I'm scared, Dane.
So definitely go check that out. But you're not here for the TikTok. You are here for episode 72.
Hopefully the TikTok brought you here.
If the TikTok brought you here, welcome to your first episode. And
smash a like on that button.
We hope you like us as much here as you do over there. So with that being said, should we give the people what they came for?
Let's give them what they want.
Let's do it. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 72, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/72. You can also find us on YouTube. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. And you can get us on any podcast app. Doesn't matter. Search the name. You'll find us. And also link up with us on the aforementioned TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Basically, we call all of that the universe of the sane space.
If
you will be heavily outnumbered by sane people to crazy people in our circles. The crazies come in, they don't like what we have to say, and they are pretty adamant about that.
You should all be vaccinated.
But we have a lot of people over there at those respective social media channels, which are good people that we would all do well to know in person. So we're building a community. Come join it.
That last one you mentioned, we might have to bide our goddamn leave over there because of one of the topics that we're going to be discussing tonight.
Oh, yes. That brings up a very good point. Because I've said this to some people in the comment section of the TikTok. Make sure you follow as many of what I just said as possible, but the most important thing to join is the email list over at the website. So if you go to wmdpodcast.com, on the very front of the front page, you can sign up for the email list. Here's why that's important. We understand every episode, every TikTok, every Instagram post, every tweet, we are just one away from being canceled. So if you follow us on one, you don't know if you're going to wake up one day and we're not there anymore. But in the unlikely event that we're big enough to get canceled from all of them simultaneously, I don't know what we would say, but I would enjoy the ride up there. They can't take our email list away from us. We will always have that. So we will always be able to stay in contact with you. And when new social medias come out or whatever, when we pop our little heads back out of the gopher hole, you'll be able to find us because you'll be linked up on that email list that they can't take away. So with that being said, David,
You want to bury the lead a little bit
are
more?
we ready to
It's
actually
almost
talk about the
6 foot. You want to
subject
go
matter?
10 feet deep? You want to make sure this doesn't come back in a
Hey,
zombie
listen, what's the
apocalypse.
first step to building a community, David?
Is drone on and prattle on about all the places they can find you and don't entertain them at all. I think that's the first thing that you do.
Yes.
Secondly, what do you actually do? You tell
Constructive criticism taken and acted upon. So, topic 1 of the day. And let's be clear, we're in the last week of November, first week of December crossover, and there's a lot of shit going on in the world. So
it's ramping up to the finality of 2022.
To only do 1 episode a week and try to keep it under an hour and to hit as many of these topics as possible, that's a chore, which is why you should also
hit him good.
Which is why you should also
don't leave
support us
more
at the website so that we can come in your ear holes more often a week.
Nice. We both made an innuendo joke at the same time.
It's like your endo.
I'll be inside your endo.
So yeah, that part too. Anyway, first topic of the week: Jack Dorsey stepping down from Twitter. Now,
don't go Jackless.
Lot of narratives around this one, but the one that we wanted to focus on was, you may have heard his successor, and I believe he's already the new acting CEO of Twitter. His name is, and I apologize if I mess it up, it's Parag, P-A-R-A-G, Agrawal, A-G-R-A-W-A-L.
It's fine. Just
That's
know
my
that
best
if
attempt
you
at
mess
pronouncing
it
his name
up,
correctly.
you are racist.
Yeah, that actually there's precedent for that. Remember when they called people Kamala?
Yeah.
They called them racist for mispronouncing Kamala.
And then you could show like 20 of the CNN anchors.
All right, so
Kamala.
I'm already filling up the little jar for every time we say something that's going to get us canceled. Well, there's one on this episode.
Well, we're doubly racist because we messed it up on purpose.
Here's the reason why this gentleman taking over for Dorsey at Twitter has been, shall we say, contentious. Apparently he had a tweet a little over 11 years ago now, back in 2010, where he basically said that all white people are racist. Now, to do him his due, I'm going to do exactly a direct quote from his tweet.
Say do again, buddy.
Do. He put in quotes, "If they are not going to make a distinction between Muslims and extremists, then why should I distinguish between white people and racists?" Now, that would appear to suggest an implication that all white people are racist, and then if he's going to be the CEO of Twitter, that, he's racist for saying something like that. And the whole cancel narrative, what's supposed to happen in this situation, and what would happen in this situation if your politics were not aligning with what the masses wanted. So that's the tweet. Now, there is follow-up, but for the purposes of just that tweet, let's say hypothetically he actually does think this. Would that seem...
Can you clarify? He does think this. He thinks that
white people are racist. All white people are racist.
Not the aforementioned, but just the old white people are racist.
Let's go with the whole thing.
It's important to...
Yeah.
And there's nuance here. We don't want to trip over them.
So now, based on that definition, and I mean, here's obviously the definition, the implication, the quote, is if you are somebody who cannot distinguish between a group of people and a negative characteristic about some members of that group, and therefore you apply it to the whole group, he says, if they're not going to distinguish between Muslims and extremists, then why should I, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, that's kind of a shitty thing to assume about somebody just because they're Muslim. Makes for funny jokes, ha ha ha, because we all know the assumptions out there, but it's not something you genuinely assume about somebody on first meeting them. So for the second portion...
Speak for yourself.
For the second portion, why should he not think that, making a distinction between, again, a group and a subset of people that happen to be a part of that larger group that are in fact racist? Again, the exact same thing going on. That's indeed the whole purpose of the commentary. Now, if that is the definition of somebody who is acting in a racist way, then you're engaging in a tit for tat for racism. And if you're arguing over who's more racist and you're engaging in a tit for tat, you're calling each other equally, racist, or you're trying to one up each other in your racism. So if a white person thinking a Muslim is automatically a terrorist, if that is racist, and we're assuming he'd agree with that portion of the quote, then it is racist to take a small subset of a larger group vis-a-vis white people and then call all of them racists. So if you're engaging in the same type of behavior that you're calling out as problematic, that don't look good for your side. Rule of thumb from point one: do not engage in a tit for tat over who's more racist.
Because that is like...
That's not going to turn out the way you want.
You're the fly, and you're like, I think I can make it through that spider web and get to those sweet-ass pieces of shit on the other side. Guess what? Every fly that's died in a web has thought the exact same thing that you did. And what is that? What's that all? If you're arguing, you're losing, or if you're explaining, you're losing?
Yeah. Yeah, that's general how, yeah.
So, I mean, there's no winning. It's like a fight with your girlfriend. Just nod your head, walk back to the car quietly, don't do anything in public, and then wait until everything calms down, and then explain your side. That's what you should do. It's getting to the point nowadays where like every human being walking this planet needs a goddamn PR person or a PR firm to back them up. Just like, all right, chill out. I know you're getting freaked out, but just chill out and like let this blow over. We'll wait a couple of days, then we'll put out a post.
They don't only need a PR firm to act for them contemporaneously. Will this get you canceled today?
That's what I'm saying.
That PR firm needs to literally predict the future.
Right, exactly.
And say that even though it's okay.
We got some charts in the back, and it's saying it's trending pretty harshly towards that particular topic, so maybe skirt it for the next, 20 years.
Even though it's okay to have a movie where a baby boy is born and you wrap him in blue instead of pink blankets, if that's all you're saying today, you have no idea that in 10 years, that will get you canceled for assuming a gender.
Goddamn. Or to even assume that the baby being born in the movie is a boy, despite
one way or another.
Despite his phallic member.
That'd be one.
Listen, his little tic tac.
I'll tell you what. If you could find a PR firm that could predict that stuff, it'd be worth every penny you could pay them.
Fuck that. Go over to the stock market. Predict that shit. If you can see the future, just what are we doing over here? I'll just get enough money to where I can buy myself out of all these lawsuits.
Yeah. So, listen. There's a little bit more to say about this Jack Dorsey, Mr. Agarwal.
Well,
situation.
It's the implications too, right?
Well, okay, so that's point one. Don't engage in a tit for tat over who's more racist.
Point two.
Number two is you're probably thinking, if you're familiar with this story, well, guys, you're being disingenuous because he followed that tweet up by saying that he was quoting somebody else who was joking. Right. We're not ignoring that point. So to quote his follow-up tweet, where he responded to somebody who probably took issue with his original tweet. He said, I was quoting Asif Mandvi. Asif Mandvi from The Daily Show. I know, sorry.
Jesus.
I was quoting Asif Mandvi from The Daily Show. The article you are reading seems too deep for my current mental state. Again, we don't know what article the other person linked or whatever. But he's saying, hey, bro, don't get mad at me. I was just quoting a joke. All right. Didn't Kevin Hart literally get his, what was it? Was it for the Grammys? He was going to be the host of an award show and it got pulled from him.
Or more
because he made a joke about, smacking his kid or whatever if it was a boy and said that he was gay.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
like
even
this
more
was like
recently,
2008.
Even more recently, who have they been coming for the past couple of months after his special was released? Dave Chappelle.
The GOAT.
And even further, Al Franken lost his Senate seat because he had a skit where he kissed a very attractive actress during the skit while they were acting, and then fake grabbed her boobs while she had a fucking flak jacket on fake grabbed like in a picture while she was asleep.
You
like how
you knew more about that than I did. I just thought that he just the picture was just taken.
He was
I didn't realize it was
inappropriate.
like rated
He was
to
being inappropriate. We
Yeah.
can't expect that on the White House floor. What the fuck are we talking about? When Bill got his rocks off Clinton, lied about getting his, like, guys, come on, don't make me answer this question. My wife's right over there.
What's the definition of is?
Anyway, all I'm saying is it's a little weird after they came with their torches and pitchforks for all those people that there's a CEO of a fucking platform that can change the opinion of what they do any given moment of every given day. It's funny how quickly they came to the defense of a guy that's supposedly, we're making this assumption, obviously, but is obviously in their camp and is going to hedge things towards their direction of the world they see fit.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's a little weird that they're willing to forego that. Meanwhile, if he was more, I don't want it, conservative, I bet you money they wouldn't have been as quick to defend him.
Yeah, conservative, or if he held the wrong opinions on stuff.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so like,
or wanted to open up Twitter and let it be more of a gangbuster.
So back to point one, if he didn't make the all white people are racist, link, right? Again, joke from somebody else, a secondhand joke, whatever. But we're saying if for the purposes of point one, we just take the tweet at face value and say, yeah, he agrees with this statement. If he was going to be like, you can openly shout out. You just don't have to be the new CEO of Twitter. Anybody can go around saying, yeah, all white people are racist. Everybody knows that. Like, that's just an acceptable thing. But then if you say something racist, even in a joking manner in the opposite way, that's acceptable. So again, this whole idea that these people, have this sacrosanct devotion to their principles of being, in this case, anti-racist. Okay, well, the principle is blind. It either applies in all situations or it's by definition not a principle. So if your principle is I'm against racism, then you should be just as offended by things that would suggest to be racist towards white people as you would for any other race or any other group or whatever the case may be. Your offense should be equal if that's your true guiding principle. And your true guiding principle is not just politics and I'm going to support whoever agrees with me and denigrate everybody who doesn't agree with me. And that's why we treat people completely differently depending on the viewpoints that they have when they say something that would otherwise offend our principles. And you betray what your true motives are when you don't principally apply your principles.
Nice. That sounds kind of like the old Eminem quote, I find you offensive for finding me offensive.
Yeah. Well, I find you unprincipled for not following your own principles.
I'm the principle that finds you unprincipled for finding flaw within my principles. Anyway, yeah, check me out. I'm rapper David DJ Diddles on the Insta. But what I was gonna say is that I don't know if this is the cherry on top or not, but this is where we're finally getting to that fulcrum where like our generation that grew up in the infancy of like social media and all that stuff, like being able to like just be a depressed young teenager and be like, I think I'm gonna end it all sometime. Like all of a sudden you're getting interviewed and they're like, oh, we see back in 2007 that you were a little depressed and we're contemplating suicide. We don't really want that here at Denny's because we like a little more upbeat, uptick kind of people. We want go-getters, not people that are going to bow out when things get a little rough. So we're gonna go ahead and see you down the road. But best endeavors with, and definitely don't do the thing that we read. But yeah, good luck. Like this is the forefront of it. This is the wave. This is when all these people that thought, oh, it'd be cute if I took a picture drinking alcohol underage.
Yeah.
Or smoking pot. Or doing illicit anything. Now, employers aren't just going to, they're starting to get to that point where employers are going through your history and reading down your notes and deciding whether or not before you even walk in to defend yourself, whether or not you're hired.
Absolutely. It's this drive for summary justice. I mean, it happens not only in those kind of more mundane contexts, but, that's what was going on in the Rittenhouse trial. It was no longer about the facts or what actually happened in that case for many people. It was BLM protest, white kid with an assault rifle. I know all I need to know about that case.
I mean,
and that's what it was, because as David was saying, like that's the narrative driven kind of discussions that we are handed these days. And if you don't read between the lines, think critically or whatever, and you just imbibe whichever side you like, if you watch CNN all day or if you watch Fox News all day, not distinguishing between those two.
Hopefully you don't do
But
it
if you're
either.
only watching one side and not at least entertaining the other side to at least hear what their thought process is, then you're engaging this exact type of narrative control that they want. They want you to be afraid and angry at the other, whoever the other is from you. It could be racially, could be religiously, could be gender, could be socioeconomic, could be any way that group is different from you. You need to hate that group. But if all of those groups, again, we always use this Bug's Life reference, if all of those groups realized how numerous they are and how powerful they are and could see that the one entity that's causing all of their problems is the entity that's telling them to focus on their neighbor. If all those groups figured that out all at once, the yoke would be off overnight.
Well, and again,
And that's why the division persists.
If you think that they're really looking out for your well-being, just see how often they end with negative comments or leave you with a negative feeling about your neighbor that doesn't see the world exactly the way you see it. Like if they were really pushing for peace and coalition and to be unified or pushing for unity in this country, they wouldn't push for as much virulent opposition to anybody that saw the world even slightly different than what they do. And so if it's a message of hate, go ahead and throw that away. If it's a message of love and understanding, then go ahead with that. And then,
and then
dictate accordingly.
Twist the words any way you can to say that even though your thing is about love, the way it's actually implemented is nothing but hatred.
We have to show them love because they're too stupid to know that we love them. What?
Right.
Like
that's how you get the conclusion from our policies are all about love and saving lives and yada, 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 to we need to force inject these people against their will.
Right.
The only way that justifies that conclusion is to believe. And again, this is the narrative control that you're getting if you're only listening to one side of the spectrum, is to honestly believe that what you're doing is out of love.
But then they do it from a moral high ground, like we've said. Like, they're too stupid to know that we love them. So we have to force them to know that we love them by putting our shot in their arm.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just one practical application that may, some of you may be familiar with. But listen, COVID is not the only instances of life where, the powerful do this. But, keep your eyes peeled for it, because the more you spot it, the more you'll start to say, you'll have that healthy skepticism in the powers that be that, we try to instill in this podcast.
And more will fall away from massive mainstream media and more into line with our world, where we just want you to love everybody.
The sane space. Now, here's the last point on the Agarwal thing, is the cathedral. We're going to link this article on the show notes page, wmdpodcast.com/72, so you can read it. But I'll just give you the title right now, and the title says it all. Trolls dig up his decade-old tweet on quote-unquote white people to target new Twitter CEO. Now, I mean, you've all been reading headlines long enough, even if you don't read all the articles in depth, to know that basically from this source, I'm going to get this narrative, and that source, I'm going to get that narrative. And if I read the title, I know everything that they have to say about it. We don't have to think too far back in the Gina Carano situation, which we have talked about on this podcast before, to think how the cathedral rallied around the wagons to just inundate that Gina Carano story with, she's an anti-Semite, she's a racist, for linking the idea of COVID passports to the Jewish star. For for indicating that, well, some people, if they think they're doing it for the right reasons, will engage in atrocities. That was her crime. Every corner of society denounced her. And then when a not too dissimilar situation goes on, the title is Trolls Dig Up Decade Old. They got to make sure you know that it's 10 years ago, because remember, when they're engaging in cancel culture, they make a huge distinction between yesterday and 20 years ago. Trolls dig up a decade-old tweet on quote-unquote white people. I don't know if those were fictional white people or what, to target new Twitter CEO.
Supposed white people.
I mean, if that title isn't just dripping with, again, cathedral in the other side, they will always protect the people who have the right politics. If Mr. Agarwal is a super liberal who's going to donate to Democrats and going to basically censor when they ask him to censor and all that kind of stuff, if that's the guy, then he can't do no wrong. Let's rally the cathedral wagons and get the narrative out there.
Or until we
These
can
are
get somebody
secretly racist trolls digging up tweets from a decade ago. If he falls.
You're only as good until they can, as you are until they can replace you with somebody worse than you or more on their side than you.
And I'll say,
and again, we're speaking about the liberal side right now, but at the same time, don't think for a second that the Republican side or the conservative side wouldn't do the exact same thing.
Okay, yeah, they're all back to the tit for tat comment. They're engaging in tit for tat for power. So, they don't care how much they maximize it when they have it, because they know even if the other side gets it next, it'll just be a matter of time before they get it back. That's why the slow creep. I say this all the time. People say, "Oh, tyranny." Well, that's a right-wing phenomenon. Hitler, even though we're not going to get into the reason why Hitler was actually a leftist. But let's just take their argument as it is. Tyranny is a right-wing phenomenon. And then somebody will reasonably reply, well, Stalin was left-wing and that was tyrannical, right? But both sides will say it's only the other side's phenomenon, where the point I always make about it is, listen, on the march to tyranny, you use the left and the right foot. They engage in this subtle tit for tat back and forth for a couple generations. One little policy tweak at a time, they get more power, more authority, more control over your life. And they just ping pong back and forth, And then one day, one of the sides gets that power, and that power, the ring, essentially, you can't take it off. Well, you're not left with a whole lot of options after that, but that's exactly how the left and right march towards this. And so the cathedral doesn't care. The cathedral cares about its own place within the power pantheon. And as long as government has a bunch of power and you're not supposed to question it, they're winning.
Dane, that was well worded, and a wonderful portrait that you just painted. And I'm probably about to shit all over it with my analogy.
I like it.
That's
what the people came to see.
If you think that there's a difference between Republicans and Democrats, I will refer you back to the WWF when we were growing up, the WWE as we know it now. The pantomime of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, and The Undertaker. All of them, at one point or another, were the absolute enemy and the epitome of what one stood for, the other was the antithesis for, and vice versa. And this is, you smell what The Rock is cooking, and Stone Cold Steve Austin's gonna whip your ass, and then Triple H has his pedigree. All that stuff. Saying all that. They were all on TV going, I'm gonna end this summer in this slam damn bamboree. And then, you know what? You'd catch them working out together. You'd catch them going out to dinner together, having steaks, laughing. They're actually really good friends.
Yeah.
But on camera, they're mortal enemies. It's kind of like they think that we're WWE fans, right? My Democrat's gonna kick your Republicans' ass. No way!
I mean, listen, I think you're right. They clearly think that we are dumb, because if they are going to engage in this type of blatant hypocrisy and double standards and everything that they do, in terms of what they let people in their tribe get away with versus out of it, that's about the only explanation I can. Either they are stupid or evil. I don't know which is the more charitable of those interpretations. I think stupidity is because then you can say, well, they don't know any better. But if you're evil, that means you know exactly what you're doing and you're choosing to do it for a purpose.
Right.
I think the more charitable interpretation of their actions is stupidity.
Right.
But either way, I think you're right. They clearly think that we are stupid. It's either they think that we are just as stupid as them, or they think that we are more stupid than them because they're smart, evil people. And if they just lie to us, they'll get away with whatever they want.
Pride cometh before the fall, my friends. Anyway, we've spent a lot of time on this topic. And do you want to talk about God? Do you want to talk about like deities? Do you want to talk about like who we should offer our prayers and sacraments to?
I do. More importantly, I want to talk about subject matter too.
I think they're one and the same.
I think they are.
Oh, please. Don't bury the lead anymore. I'm getting so excited.
So, you got 30 minutes into an episode and you're like, oh, thank God these guys aren't talking about COVID in this episode.
Well, you're out of your league.
We have got a surprise for you.
We can find COVID in the cracks.
It's a mini one because you're right. The bulk of this episode was topic one. There was a lot more nuance, a lot more to discuss there. We can wrap this second part up pretty quick. So, Saint, now
patron saint of the 19.
Now raised to the level of God, as David suggested. Fauci,
Dr. Anthony Fauci,
is at it again.
Is science. Postmark, put it on the mailbox. It's delivered.
So, if you remember a few years ago, and I think we brought it up on an episode, but I can't for the life of me remember which episode it was.
It was that one that was before the last one.
Yeah, it was around that one place in the catalog.
Right.
So as long as they go to that place,
it was across from the Starbucks.
Listen, I guess you're just going to have to start at episode 0 and listen to them all. And then you can write us on the show notes on this episode telling us which episode it was. Thank you for your service. Anyway, a few months ago, what we discussed was the Fauci going on MSNBC or something. And his exact quote at that time was, attacks on me are attacks on science. Now, he got understandably and deservedly roasted for that at the time, for linking himself as being the human incarnation of the holy manifestation of quote unquote science. That's a rather disturbing analogy to make about oneself, especially when that person has the control to basically shut down society on his whim. I mean, that's concerning that he would link himself with science like that. And we brought that up on an episode, and he got roasted.
And since said episode,
right,
there's also been emails that have come out that have linked him not only to the lab, but also to funding the research that was illegal in this country to do. So he's like, I fucking got it. I'm going to go out of country. We're going to go to China and we're going to study some corona. There's emails linking him directly to the facility that this thing came out of. And again, with the narrative control, if you can remember all the way back to the beginning of this, it was racist to imply, to even mention the fact that this thing came from China by God, and heaven forbid you mentioned that it came from Wuhan. Heaven forbid, because you are the most racist, anti-China piece of shit that we could possibly find. That wouldn't have anything to do with the narrative of protecting their God of science, would it? And now, what has he done, Dane?
I have a specific episode for you on that. You are welcome. Episode 47, titled Fauci's Emails, is where we talked about those emails that David alluded to. Now, you know what? I think we just stumbled on how this topic actually ties in with the first topic of the episode about rallying for their own while they put down everybody else. Wow, didn't even plan that. Look at that. Sometimes miracles. This is a Christmas miracle happening.
He's lying. We totally knew that. We drew it up
podcast.
There's a big whiteboard you can't see.
Well, in case you forgot about that Fauci snafu, again, I gave you the quote so you can just, look it up directly. You'll be able to find a YouTube video on it. He is back at it again. he is now on step 2 of the Holy Trinity of the First Church of Dr. Fauci and Latter-day Saints.
Of the Covidity.
He has linked himself with the almighty science again. His most recent quote, which I don't know, did it happen this week?
I think, yes.
You told me about it this week. I don't know when he actually said it.
It might have happened over the weekend, but at this point, it's...
Again, late November, early December 2021. Roughly is when this came out.
About 2 years into this thing.
He says, quote, "It's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. That's dangerous." Well, there's one thing he got right in that statement. That is dangerous.
It's definitely a dangerous thing that's happening right now.
Not that quote unquote they're questioning, but that you, O Lord, Almighty Savior, His Holiness, the Faucinator, because they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Wow.
The implied meaning there.
Right. Now, again, he knows he got roasted 5 or 6 months ago when he made the first statement that we talked about. He knows that. So I ask you, dear listener, and David, because you can actually respond to me right now.
I'm not taking the place of the listener. I won't do it.
Is it the fact that he already forgot what happened a few months ago, or he doesn't care because the power that he has received over the last 2 years for an unelected official, which is odd coming from the side of the spectrum that always tells us how sacred democracy is, and it's because we have a voice. Well, I don't ever remember seeing Fauci on a ballot, but he sure can command a large portion of my life. But I digress. That person linking himself intimately, like, I represent science. That's disturbing.
Well,
or in his words, that's dangerous.
Yeah. Dane, I'm going to go ahead and hit you with some knowledge. All right. And it kind of goes back to that narrative. Well, what has also happened in this time since since we did the Fauci emails episode, he also
47 was a long time ago.
He also went toe-to-toe with Rand Paul. And when Rand Paul brought up those emails and linked him directly to the gain of function research, and those emails have become more and more available to the public, he's starting to lose hold of his holier than thou approach, that he only has your best interests in mind. So what do they do on that particular side? They can't say I made a mistake, because we've discussed that before. If they're wrong once, then they've lost all credibility, which isn't actually true. You can make a mistake, and then if you apologize for it fervently and try not to do it again, we accept your apology and we'll start trusting you.
Well, they just pretend it never happened.
Exactly. So their playbook is just to deny it ever happened and double down on the lie. Kind of like what they did with, and we're going to plug him again because, he needs the boost in numbers, the JRE. When Gupta went to the JRE and said that, they shouldn't have done that. They probably misrepresented what you took. And then after he did that and completely crumbled his side's, i.e. CNN's narrative, then he went on the apology tour to suck every dick at CNN to make sure that he still is the head
in their good graces.
Yeah, exactly. And so the first dick he had to suck was the almighty Don Lemons, who then had him on and said, yes, prostrate yourself before me. Ivermectin.
This is not a direct quote of Don Lemon or a good impression of him, but please accept it on our behalf.
Is it racist to impersonate Don Lemon? No. I'm not even gonna go there.
No.
But anyway, is ivermectin used as horse dewormer? Dr. Sanjay Gupta. Yes, it is. So we didn't lie then, did we? No, we did not.
When he said directly to Joe's face, oh yeah, you're right, they shouldn't have said that. Not a moment later.
And then Joe goes back on and goes, they're back lying again. And then the next week they triple down on the lie. Well, Joe Joe was sucking horse semen, is what he was doing. He was getting it straight from the hose. That's how he got over COVID.
And Joe, if I may, okay, with all 100-ish of our listeners,
we're probably like 120.
Let me give you a little constructive criticism, Joe. I love you, okay? I understand your strong desire to stay neutral,
be the bigger man,
maintain the appearances of neutrality. Like David said, be the bigger man, yada, yada, yada. And I know that after that interview, you didn't like being co-opted by the right any more than you do the left, when you held Gupta's feet to the fire. And you wanted to make clear that Gupta was still your friend. He's a really nice guy. You like him, all this kind of stuff. All I'm saying, Joe, I understand the drive for neutrality. I get it. That's an admirable quality. That's a good part of you. I don't want you to lose that. But when somebody tells you one thing to your face and not 48 hours later is saying the exact opposite about you on national television.
Without your ability to rebut, by the way.
I don't know your close circle of friends. I don't know the kind of people that
it's okay.
that you hang around with.
Personally.
Yeah, right. I don't know those people personally any more than I know Joe personally. But if somebody's willing to do that to you, that's not a friend.
No.
He might be a nice guy in person and he might only have nice things to say about you, but I mean that's like freshman year of high school 101. You learn about people. People that will say things behind your back and stab you in the back, that's not a friend. And so I don't think it ruins your neutrality to say that.
But at the same time, to pull it back to Fauci, it's you can only run a certain play a certain amount of times during a game before the other team realizes it. If you keep doing a draw to the right, if you do it on first down, if you do it on second down,
too many sports analogies,
and you do it on third down, and then you don't come out in punt formation on fourth down, I'm going to go ahead and assume that defense knows you're coming at their line with a draw play, because there's only so many times you can go to that well before that well goes dry. And you've done it with everything that you've talked about over the past at least 2 years, if not longer than that. So you can't keep controlling this narrative. When people see you flat out lying about something and you just double down on it, if you thought that doubling down on it was the best move to do and that would save your ass, that's what's going to burn you in the long run.
And you're talking about Fauci in particular, or like the narrative molders?
Well, no, the narrative molders. That's basically what I'm saying. It's like they
contradicting themselves, being hypocritical,
and then never saying they got it wrong,
right?
Never admitting that they misrepresented something, never saying that they hedged it ever in their favor. And again,
go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Like you said, you can only run that play so long, and they're desperate. They're an animal in a corner. Their viewership is down, and that's again why they went after Joe, because his viewership makes them look like a joke. And he doesn't tout himself as an actual news agency. And then where does that say? And then to extrapolate it all the way out, what does it say about our society when we trust comedians like Joe Rogan, Russell Brand? I know he's not I know Tim Dillon. Tim Dillon's another comedian that will tell you the straight things. Like Tim Pool.
I mean, Dave does in his own stand-up, Dave Chappelle. So.
Like we trust comedians and we trust people of comedy and of entertainment more so than actual news outlets, because we know they're not bought and paid for and don't have an ulterior motive.
Well, listen, we've brought up this historical reference several times, and it applies here, is that, the court jester was oftentimes the only person who could tell the king the truth without risking his head on the chopping block, kill the messenger type thing. They wouldn't do it to the court jester because, he's a fool and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of what's happening, because even though the cathedral would like us to believe that we, the people, don't have the power, I think that they know just as much as some of us know, and what we're trying to do with this podcast and stuff is wake more people up to know it, is that the power still does reside with us. So in the court jester example, who is the king? It's not Biden. It's not the government. It's not any sort of cabal of people that mean to rule the world and do us all wrong. It's us. We are the king. We are choosing who to execute or not. And when we can see how much the media lies to us and how untrustworthy a lot of different flows of information, one flow of information is through comedy. And we, the people, the kings, are sitting there saying, you know what? The comics are telling us the truth more. They're the ones that we're going to listen to, because we can't trust all of these other donkeys because they have their own agendas. The comedian is just remarking on the things that are going on. So, no matter how much a Fauci wants to link himself with the new religion of science, no matter how much he tells you not to question him because he's so learned and he's such an expert, you know that Dave Chappelle is not lying to you. You know that Joe's not lying to you. They might get things wrong,
and they call themselves idiots.
But they're not out to force feed you something that you should believe.
They aren't trying to tell you that they're a god. They're not trying to say that they are above reproach. They accept reproach, and then what they do? They change their standpoint on certain things.
Yeah, they're real human beings, in other words.
Right. Like, again, and to question you is to question science itself. The whole fucking idea of science is to question everything. You dip shit. So when you can't stand on your own 2 feet and answer questions about the methodologies that you're using, that means you're performing shitty science, which is why you want people to stop asking questions. That's the real fucking narrative here. He doesn't want questions. He wants compliance. He's not a scientist. He's a dictator. Pure and simple. The whole point of science is to ask questions and to never believe the data and check it again and check it again and check it again. And maybe it'll become theory if it holds up to 100 checks. And then check it again. And then when everyone else checks it, then it turns into practicum. Then it turns into law. But it's only law until it can't be unproven. And what about his mandates have been unproven or infallible? None of them. He told people not to go outside. Turns out vitamin D is actually really good for you. He told people to wear masks. Turns out masks don't work so well. He told people to get the vaccine. There's no way to even spread it after you get the vaccine. Well, first round didn't work.
One of my favorite quotes is, I think once we get vaccine over 50%, we won't see the same sort of spikes that we've been seeing.
Right.
And now some of the spikes in some highly vaccinated countries, again, check out the TikTok. The 2 that immediately come to mind are Iceland and Gibraltar, where they have 90 plus, in Gibraltar's case, 100% vaccination rate of, again, the people that are eligible for it. And yet they're seeing larger spikes than they've ever seen. So we don't need to make any claims about that, about whether the vaccine worked, doesn't work, it's causing, not causing. Just on Fauci's statement alone, when you have 50% vaccinated population, you're not going to see the same sort of spikes that we've seen. Now, if he's a god that's not supposed to be questioned because #the science is quote unquote settled and it's always right, and he's the physical manifestation of that, on that simple statement alone, he should never be wrong. So if you have more than 50% uptake and you're still seeing the spikes, God was wrong.
Or option B, you can look at what actually happened, and the guy that caused this whole fucking thing to happen, or that had a definite bloody hand in this particular murder, is trying to scapegoat himself out of question.
Or set policy.
Correct. Like, it's not even, it's
Mr.
like,
Dahmer.
It's not even connecting the dots. It's like, just draw a straight line to the other dot. You did it. It's a straight line. Like,
Mr. Dahmer, we would like you to set all of the policies and procedures related to the security of your cell. Right. If you want to get out at X time of day and you want no questions asked,
what's that? You want the youngest, cutest guard to be brought to your tent immediately, washed and cleaned? Maybe possibly already pre-drugged? Absolutely, Mr. Dahmer.
That's exactly what's going on here. It's insanity.
Want us to season him too? Do you want us to like put some salt and pepper on him?
It's insanity, David.
Like,
It just ain't
that's
right.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Are we? Have I ever seen you this worked up on the podcast?
but it's just so weird. It's like,
I know.
It's like, it's there.
I'm not mad at it. I'm
It's
usually
there.
the one that gets worked up.
It's
so.
right there. Like, I'm not even smart, and I can see it. It's right there. Like, I think I'm at the fucking reading level of a 5th grader, but it's right there. I can see that shit.
Hey, I made a TikTok about this recently, which if you're not on that page, go check it out. I made a TikTok questioning.
Plugger.
I know. I made a questioning exactly what you're saying. Like, it's right there. How could they not see it? Whatever. I'm starting to wonder.
They're magicians.
If this whole
it's all about sleight of hand.
If this whole thing is a massive psyop, and the goal of the psyop
to see how much they can get away with.
No, the goal of the psyop is to get the few remaining sane people to start questioning their own sanity.
Oh, well, goal succeed, pull off the op, because I'm starting to think that I'm taking crazy pills going, wait, we still circle around the sun, right?
Yeah, so every time they do something like super hypocritical, like again, we talked about with point 1, the Agarwal thing, and like if it was somebody who happened to have conservative views, how differently they treat that, and how obviously hypocritical that is, and that we're not supposed to see it. But I mean, think about this from a mental perspective. If you're in a group of 10 people and you saw something and you saw what you saw, and those other 9 people are like, bro, you're crazy.
What
it's not that big a deal.
With the alien, the imposter game, like you're sus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God damn it, what was that?
Among Us.
Among Us, right. This is like a game of Among Us, like,
yeah,
he's the alien. Like, no, I think you're good.
So if you're the only person who's starting to say, wait a minute, like the rest of y'all see this hypocrisy, right? Or the rest of y'all see this like blatant contradiction. It's like again, another brief example, because we're getting long on this episode. When the Biden administration comes out for 4th of July and says, we saved you 16 cents on your 4th of July celebration compared to last year. Fast forward a few months. Thanksgiving, you now have to pay $9 more for your turkey than you did last year. It's like, all right, you gave me 16, you took 16 cents, you took away $9. I'm no math magician, but I don't think this is working out.
All I know is my wallet's a little goddamn lighter. That's all I know.
So it's subtle little things like that. When you see those headlines come out and you're like, wait, like I remember for the 4th.
Did they come out and announce that they were...
Dude, for the 4th of July thing, the White House released a press release.
Yeah, what was the press release on Turkey Day?
I don't recall.
Oh, weird. That's weird. Dude, I nailed that. That's like when you come home, you're like, Mom, I nailed that spelling test. How's your math test? So, what's for dinner, Mom? You're such a great cook. Have I told you, what did you do with your hair? Is it different? You did something different with your hair today, didn't you, Mom? You're amazing. I love you so much.
So, and this is what I hashed out for 3 minutes in a TikTok, was like...
3 minutes in a TikTok?
Was like, maybe it is a massive psyop, and they know that there's 10% of us.
Like, let's see what we can get away with. Let's turn it up to 11 and crank up the volume.
There's 10% of us that are connecting those two headlines and going, this is weird. Is this not weird?
Time out. Does everyone else see this shit right now?
But the other 9 people in your group are like, this
Fuck
guy.
that. You remember, what was that Office Space, the easy button? We need to invent the timeout button just for America. Just hit it and go, look at all the other Americans and go, you see this shit, right?
I do. We do need a timeout every once in a while to just look at each other and be like,
wait, hold on.
Are you seeing what I'm seeing?
All right, we're going to let them keep going because it's kind of cute, but you see it, right? I feel like, but the people that still believe it and fervently believe it, I feel like they could literally come out tomorrow. Don't be shocked, ladies and gentlemen. David's calling it here now first on WMD podcast. Hashtag, click the link, do all the things, smash the like. I bet you money, if it keeps going this way, within the next 2 years, they'll be able to say that the sun rises in the west and sets in the east.
I mean, it is.
Like, are you one of those fucking unintelligent people that thinks that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west? You fucking moron.
It is. I mean,
you flat earther.
to those of you that can read through the lines of what we're saying, like that is 1984. Yeah. Remember, what was the final question on the table? Say that 2 + 2 = 5. Couldn't bring himself to do it. But eventually the torture was bad enough that he gave in and he would say whatever the regime told him to say. This is not like the people that rule over us look at 1984 as an instruction manual, and the rest of us are just like, bro, that was a cautionary tale. Pump the brakes. Stop doing this.
What do you think Newspeak was? It's what we just talked
We're
about with
living
the narrative.
Yeah.
It's like, we didn't lie, did we? No, we didn't. Now prostrate yourself before me and beg for my forgiveness.
It's disturbing. But you guys want to hear something more disturbing?
We don't have enough money to keep this podcast going. So for a small donation we'll send a brutalized puppy to your house.
I don't know if this is
It
disturbing.
is that time of year, by the way.
Jesus
so buckle up.
I don't know if this is disturbing or hilarious.
Sarah McLachlan's going through the roof right now.
It's like Mariah Carey tops the list with her Christmas song, and then next is Sarah McLachlan with the freezing puppies.
In the arms of shit.
All right, ASPCA, here's another $50.
Stop showing me that eyeless dog. It's too in pain. It's too cute.
Well, here's something, I don't know, disturbing. Maybe it's just funny. Listen, we started this episode saying, bro, there was so much happened this week. Let's talk about 4 topics. We trimmed it to 2, and we still went an hour.
We got more to say.
We got more to say.
We got more shit off of what we wanted to say.
We got more to say on the 2 topics we actually addressed.
We can talk shit forever.
So
perpetual shit talkers.
With that being said, we try to get as many of these episodes as possible. We try not to be longer than 30 minutes. We doubled it up here. And I don't think we've stayed under 30 minutes 4 times in 70 some episodes. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Point is, if you want to hear more of us, you can follow us at all those social medias, Twitter, Instagram. TikTok's the one that's really blowing up lately. So jump on there, especially since David's going to get on there. You get on there, you can get a little laughs, get a little stimmies.
Give me some confidence.
Do a little community building, that good stuff. And follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. Most importantly, join the email list on the website in case we get canceled. This might be the last episode. Every episode is potentially our last
We've
episode.
said some pretty cancelable shit.
So
I hate to think that this is going to go a couple of decades down and then some, right-wing troll will pull one of these episodes up and cancel us then.
So find this one at wmdpodcast.com/72 or any of your favorite podcast catchers or YouTube. But with that being said, we will see you on episode 73. Who knows what we're going to talk about? I mean, the collapse of the empire seems to be accelerating daily. So the crazy things that could happen that would be commentable on said podcast are essentially limitless.
Well, I'm not going to panic until I start seeing flaming cars and the 4 riders of the apocalypse. Is it the 5 or is it 4?
I think it's 4.
I think it's 4, right?
Yeah.
Until then, keep calm and carry on. And we'll see for episode... What?
Are we bringing that back?
Keep calm and carry on?
That was huge a few years ago.
God save the Queen. Keep calm and carry on.
We'll do that, and then hopefully we will see you on episode 73.
Actually, the Queen's probably going to outlive us all.
If we haven't been CIA black bagged to some dark site.
Don't you do it, Jerry.